Okay, you guys, so I just sat down after I went on my walk and I thought about something that I wanted to share with you guys because I just filmed this other video and I'm kind of uncomfortable because I got this whole body waist trainer thing on and it is so irritating. But I haven't taken it off yet because I need to go take a shower. But listen, it just popped up in my mind and I'm trying to work on, talking about things and focusing on things when they pop up in my mind so that I don't forget it. And if I can't get to it right away, I write it down. But this is an example of me trying to get into that. And the topic is about slowing down in order to speed up. The topic is about the times when you feel like you have to speed up, when things are kind of all going crazy in your life and you feel this intense need to speed up. Oh, I gotta do this. Frantic energy. And you need to do more. It's kind of like a trap. It's kind of like a setup. Because in reality, sometimes you have to slow down in order to speed up. Because the things that you're going to be doing when you slow down are the things that are going to open up your mind and your heart and your experience to the possibilities that are open to you so that you can speed up. You get what I'm saying? And that's one thing that came to my mind, especially after we had the conversation about, walking into those synchronistic moments and allowing the guidance within you, your inner guidance, to lead you. Okay? I think it's very important, especially in terms of the times that we're in right now, what's going on in the world, that we understand that this frantic, detrimental energy is something that could hinder us, right? This panicky, fearful energy is something that actually holds us back. Because one thing about it that I've noticed a lot in my life, especially when I take a break to jump into the hobbies that I enjoy, or I focus on the, self-care things that I strive to do on a regular basis, I notice that when I do those things, there are clues or occurrences that happen that give me insight or ideas as to how I can solve a problem. And sometimes we're kind of in a position where we go, right? And whatever you're struggling with, whatever it is that you have in front of you as an obstacle or a problem that you need to solve, you sometimes get stuck in this idea that, well, if only I do more, if only I push harder, if only I grind harder, that'll solve the problem. But sometimes it's like a hamster wheel and it doesn't actually solve the problem. But when you stop and leave it alone, the problem can often solve itself, or you're opened up to the solution that you didn't see before. That's something that I struggle with at times. And that's something that I think a lot of us struggle with at times. And that struggle is what allows for predators to come in and perpetrate as if they have the solution to our problems, when in reality, it's just a band-aid and it's not actually solving the problem. It's more so coping with it or covering it up to make it less abrasive to you. Okay? And eventually that crumbles because the problem ultimately is still there. So, a lot of times you exhaust yourself in those types of mentalities. And you think that, if I were just to get more done or stay up later and do more or whatever it is, that will be the solution to the problem, but it hasn't worked thus far. And when we have issues as individuals that we have to deal with, it's a very daunting task. Like, it's super scary because you're faced with something that threatens your security, your stability, and it makes you very uncomfortable. But the discomfort that you feel is often the doorway or the gateway that opens you up to peace. It's often the gateway that allows you to walk into the place that you really strive to be in, because it causes you to break out of your routine to see something differently. Y'all hear my stomach growling? I am hungry. I didn't eat anything today. That's like I say, but no. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Like, it's a very important thing, and it's a very difficult thing to understand. And I feel personally like a lot of the things in life that make it easier for us to maneuver and maintain are things that appear obvious and it appears easy, but the actual application of those philosophies is very difficult. So it's sometimes difficult for me because then I beat myself up if I don't push harder or do more, even though physically or mentally or emotionally, maybe even spiritually, I don't have the bandwidth to do more. And I think it's like, kind of like when people say you work smarter, not harder. Part of working smarter and not harder is to identify those times where you're kind of like banging your head against a brick wall and see that there may be a need for another solution. It's hard to see another solution when you feel like there's only one solution. But when you ultimately allow space for the possibility that things could go down a different road or turn out a different way, then you start to see things that you didn't see before. Like, you know how when people are dealing with somebody in a relationship and they suspect the person of cheating, right? And people say, well, if you go looking for something, you're going to find it, pretty much. And usually that's the case. Like, if you suspect or think that somebody is cheating on you and you go looking through their phone, more than likely you're going to find what you're looking for. And it's not so much as like a confirmation of your intuition, because that's what it could be as well. But it's also kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy or something that you manifested because that's what you were looking for. That's what you wanted to find. So therefore you found it. And, in any situation where somebody has their mind made up about something, or they have their, mind made up about a person, it really doesn't matter what details are provided or what evidence you see to contradict your preconceived notion, because that preconceived notion is already ingrained in your mind space. And a good way to break out of that is to deviate and kind of allow yourself to be distracted or go off on a random tangent or do something random that you haven't done before, because it breaks you away from that preconceived notion and it takes you down a different path so that you can observe a different set of circumstances, which can offer a different perspective. And that's what I feel like. It's something that's super difficult, but it's something that I feel would benefit you guys. And it's benefited me, at least, having these epiphanies. And I want you guys to remember, because like I said, these are things that people always talk about. Like, these are things that people say all the time. And it seems so obvious and it seems so easy, but in reality, it's very difficult to apply. It's very difficult to put into practice. And it's because, even though sometimes things look easy, there's a lot more that goes into it. There's a lot more that it ties into. And if you allow yourself to be open to the possibility of something different happening, then you'll be able to actually see those different options and possibilities, and they'll start to present themselves, because your mind and your perspective is now open to that fact or open to that possibility. Like, if you think that you're going to fail, or if you think that something's not going to work out, then more than likely you're going to find evidence that supports that notion. And then kind of simultaneously and subconsciously, you'll act and make decisions that also support that notion, which basically bring the reality that you're fearing to life. If you looked at it a little bit differently and you said, well, I don't know what's going to happen. It doesn't have to be definite. You don't have to say, well, I know what's going to happen this way or that way. You could just be like, well, look, it's up in the air. I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may. Things could go one way or the other. I'm not going to get stuck or attached to any specific outcome. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to allow what's supposed to happen. Sometimes that just helps for your mind to be open in that way. And I think that's something that we would all benefit from, because I just feel like personally, a lot of things going on in the world right now are being positioned in a way where they're intended to cause you as an individual to feel that there's this inevitable outcome that's going to happen, child, where there's no way to change it. And I just don't believe that. Like, there's a lot of bad things happening in the world. There's a lot of devastation and things that are really hard to process and deal with going on in the world. And the main people who are benefiting from you being in that closed-minded perspective or mindset are the ones who perpetuate that negativity. Because if they are able to perpetuate that negativity in your life, then they'll be able to get you to do things that you may not necessarily agree with, or you may not necessarily want to do. And it's a fear tactic. And I was telling this story on the other channels that I have, where I was watching this video where this pimp was getting interviewed, and he was like, yeah, the whole thing, like, basically a pimp is a person who forces someone else. Well, not really. They don't actually force you, in all honesty. But a pimp is someone who's able to manipulate other people into doing their deeds and basically working for them without having to do anything, like feeding off of other people. And that's an energy that we see in the world right now. We're all being fed off of our emotions, our fears, our anger, everything that kind of drives us, our happiness and joy, we're being fed off of. And this pimp was talking about how, you have to instill fear in the hoes so that they'll be afraid of what you're going to do if they don't listen to you. And that, perpetuates their desire to basically work for him. And that's kind of what this is. It's kind of like, okay, if we're in a position where we know that we're dealing with a bunch of nefarious characters and they benefit from our fear and our anger and our negative emotions and our positive emotions and just the expression of our energy without really giving us anything in return, they're the ones who are holding the power. And they use that power to pigeonhole you into believing that something is inevitable or believing that something is unavoidable, when in reality, it may very well be, but there's a possibility that there could be another solution. But because they've cornered you, you're not able to see it. And I think that happens on a large scale, and it happens on a small scale. It happens in our life individually. It happens when we're at work and we have a boss that threatens our job because we don't do what they want us to do, or they ask more of us than what we're paid for. And we get stuck in that mindset that it's going to be so horrible if I were to quit, or if I were to get fired, or if I were to get laid off, that we basically die a little bit on the inside every time we have to show up to that job. And that's so stressful, and it's so counterproductive to the expansion and growth and ascension of humanity. And I challenge you guys, like, let me know in the comments if you've ever been in a situation where you've had that aha moment where you realized that and then chose a different path or opened yourself up to a different solution, and then it worked out. Because I feel like that would help reinforce this point. And I think a lot of you guys have been in those situations, but it's like every single time that you get into that situation, it's like you have to relearn and you have to reteach yourself again until it becomes a consistent habit. So, I just feel like don't beat yourself up about it, because sometimes we're tricked or manipulated or just ignorant to the ways that we could be shrinking ourselves. And if you've been really working hard on something and you've really been trying to achieve a goal and it feels like you're just not making any progress, take the time to slow down. Take the time to take a step back. Just drop it. Leave the problem where it is. It's not so much avoidance, but it's kind of like allowance. And see what that does for you. See if you have any synchronistic experiences that you experienced that have offered you or could possibly offer you another solution to that problem. And I hope that helped you guys. As always, be sure to like and subscribe to continue to catch the vibe. Get in the comments, let me know what you think, and share this with someone who you think may need to hear it, because that's what this is all about. You guys, I love y'all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.